Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies, and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by Emma Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. Books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode. Nancy Brewka-Clark is our guest poet for this episode of The Right Focus. With clever one-liners, Nancy shares how poetry affects writing and life. Her collection, Beautiful Corpus, published just as COVID struck, and the intended splash of a new publication became lost in the lockdown world and no longer had any shining newness when society reopened its doors. Yet Nancy continued, for, as with any true writer, we're happiest when we are creating. This is Nancy Brewka-Clark, your first appearance on the Right Focus podcast, and it's so
Yes.
wonderful to talk with you.
Thank
Tell
you,
me
Amy.
about the writing that you currently do, and then we'll get into poetry.
Okay. Right now, um, so far this year, I have sold exactly one short story, and that was January 9th, I think. And it's a publishing house in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got 170 American dollars for it. This was, tremendously exciting
Yes.
to have a sale at the beginning of the year. And ever since then, my well has been dry, but I've been working on 4 or 5 things that have taken a lot longer than I thought.
Right.
So I've been trying some different elements. I've been trying not different genres exactly, but I tend to enter a lot of competitions. I always have.
Mm-hmm.
And because I write, short stories, creative nonfiction, poetry, plays, um, my work has, been spread out over the decades.
Right.
And so I found a competition that asked for novels in verse. And
Wow.
I'd always wanted to try that
Mm-hmm.
way back when I was in college, because I graduated in 1969. So we're talking, several millennia ago. But I remember as a senior thinking how much fun it would be to do that, because I'd read Under Milkwood and, Leaves of Grass sort of,
Yes.
is in that format, but it's still considered, poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a title that I'd wanted to work with for 50 years, which was Portrait of the Artist as a Young Womb,
Ah.
and
Mm-hmm.
wanted to just tell the story of a younger, it was based on my husband's step-grandmother, who
Mm-hmm.
was a young girl, came from Iowa by herself to go to art school in Boston.
Brave
And
girl.
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a very interesting woman. And actually, over my shoulder, there's a portrait that she did of my husband when he was a little boy. You can just,
Okay.
barely see it. But she ended up, she was the first female illustrator for um, Filene's department store.
Mm-hmm.
She cracked that barrier right after World War One. And so I just found her life very interesting. She divorced when it wasn't popular. She was a single mother when nobody'd heard of that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I thought the title was fitting. In this political environment, it's probably politically incorrect, but I don't care. I've always wanted to use it. So I got the first 100 pages of that done in time to enter it. Unfortunately, it went off without a punchline, so I doubt that I'm going to win a prize, but it motivated me. And that's
Right.
why I like to enter these things,
Yes.
is it gets you thinking in a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working on that, and also some things that I guess would be considered spiritual.
Right.
And I have done a lot of that over the years. So um, right now, no mysteries in the works yet. And
They always pop up when
just
you least expect them.
exactly,
I will
exactly.
write something and I think, okay, I'm drained. I'm completely drained of putting in clues, doing my red herrings, scattering things right and left. And my brain's just too tired. And then
Yep.
I will go like a month, and all of a sudden I have this story idea, and it has to be a mystery, and it has to do this, and it has to do that, and I'm going like, give me a break.
Yeah. Well, I love the name Wink Books. I think that
Oh,
is just
thank
so
you.
cool. Yeah. It's so short and sweet, and you're not going to forget it.
Well, I hope not. But the only people who email me are writers that I contact for the podcast are spam people who are saying, "Don't you want to do this? Don't you want to pay us to help you do this?" And I'm going like,
Yep.
"No, I have figured that out for myself years ago." So
Yeah. Well,
if
it's
I
a
ever start
hard.
getting a bunch of emails in, I'll probably panic and go like, why did they get my email? Why did they want this information? Why?
I know. Well, my website is moribund, and that's being polite. And I just got an email from Bluehost or whatever saying, your credit card is expired and we want $203 to keep it going. And I was thinking, I don't know. Um,
Hmm.
it's the same. My husband designed it and kept it up, and he
Yes.
died he died in 2021.
Oh,
And so since
sorry to
then,
hear that.
thank you. He was my lifetime editor. He read
Hmm.
every word that I wrote. Do you have someone like that in your life that you can?
My sister,
Yep.
she will tell me the honest truth. She's not brutal with it, but she
No.
tells me the honest truth. This
Yes.
is not working. That ending was totally flat. She will do that to me. She never tries to tell me how to fix it, but she says it's not working for me,
Right.
and then I figure it out for myself. And I love that. She was When she was in high school, she did an independent study and wrote a novel, and I was like, let's see, that was probably her 11th grade year. And so I was probably in sixth grade at that time. And I thought, oh, you can write books on your own and not have to read them. You can write the stories that are in your head. And then I happened to turn to the back end. I finished a Phyllis A. Whitney. I don't know if you remember her.
Oh, of course I
Um,
do. Love,
I
love.
love
Yes.
Phyllis A. Whitney. My favorite
Yes.
book by hers is Hunter's Green.
Yep.
Anyway, I finished hers and I turned the last page over, and there was her bio. And I thought, oh, you can write books and make money.
I know. I know. That's exactly how it used to be. I think in a way, Emily, we're lucky that
Yes,
we had that, I don't want to say naivete, but that sort of innocence
yes,
of
hmm,
not thinking purely in commercial terms first.
yes,
Like, what will I write that will make money? Because at least I've never been able to do that. Never, never, never,
never,
never.
never.
And I think, now I think people are under the gun to have commercial success. And as we know, when you tell people you're a writer and they ask what you've written, they expect you to have been on the New York Times bestsellers
Yes,
list because that's what they equate with writing.
yes,
Or it used to be, you write short stories. How many have you had in the New Yorker, the Atlantic? Those are the only things that people knew.
yes,
And so in a way, it's good that the world has opened up. But it's also, I think, lost a lot of that, not glamour, but that excitement of figuring something out and
yes.
then pursuing it without particularly thinking you're going to make $1 million and have them, Netflix pick it up. Um,
I'm on some writers' boards on Facebook, and it breaks my heart. when somebody comes on and said, I'm writing my first book and they're planning to do a lot of advertising and then they're going to be so successful. This is in their post that they're going to do this and it's going to be a great success and
Yeah,
I'm just going to be so well known from this and I'm going like, "Oh, honey, you don't know.
that's
You
right. You
don't
don't know.
know." And if
That
they
is,
catch
yeah.
me at the wrong time before I have had my second cup of coffee, uh, I'm
Are you
brutally
cruel?
honest.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, you hate to disillusion people, but on the other hand, they'll never survive if they're not disillusioned.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what keeps us going. I get asked, why are you still writing? It's because I love it. That's why.
Yes, and I can't stop.
Right.
I stopped for several years. I took care of my mother before her death, and I had to stop, and I was extremely unhappy. Now I know part of that was the being her caregiver,
Yeah,
because I loved my mother and I enjoyed working with her and doing things with her, but I wasn't writing. And so
I
there was no
understand.
real creative outlet for me. And I,
Yeah.
I discovered very quickly that I needed to do a creative outlet. And her last year that she was at home, she would wake me up in the middle of the night and we'd have to go driving because she thought it was time to get up and go. And so it's 3 a.m. and we're driving on the road. And I'm saying things like, "Look, mother, there's nobody else out here. We're the only ones up." Uh, so she would come back and go immediately to sleep. I would come back and be wide awake. And so I started writing. And I actually, wrote what wound up being my first book that I published back in 2015 over at the night until I had to get up to go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And so it reawakened the creative happiness that was with me and had been with me
Yes.
all my life because
Yes.
I started writing, as I told you. I told stories and then I realized, oh, you can actually tell stories.
That's right. That people are interested in.
Yes, yes. We
Yeah.
have strayed far away from talking about poetry. Tell me about your poetry.
Well, really, that was really what I was meant to do. And it's taken, you know, a lifetime to really figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not that I didn't know, but that it really is almost embarrassing to call yourself a poet because again, that's something that I think people equate with, quill pens and, you know, something that's so esoteric and in the past. And to me, the poetry is so wonderful because it's even better than a short story because in 30 lines or under, you can tell a whole story. You can,
Yes.
encompass a whole life. Uh, and that's what I always loved. But, I was encouraged to do other things, and then I had to make money. So I became a newspaper reporter and then,
Right. Yeah.
and a feature writer. And that changes your perspective,
Yes, it does.
certainly. And it changes it for good.
Yes.
And I mean, permanently, not necessarily for good, because you become a lot more strict, you know.
But you
In,
open your eyes to other points of view because you start looking at the world through the perspective of whoever you're interviewing.
yes. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And in the writing itself, you can't fictionalize anything.
Right.
And so in a way that actually helped me write short stories and helped me write short mysteries because those were the bare bones that you learned, you know, to tell, just that pyramid of the lead containing everything and then explaining how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good for me, technically. But poetry, I wrote it in college, and my junior year of college, I went to a women's college called Wheaton, which is on the South Shore of Massachusetts, or it's between Boston and Providence.
I think I've heard of
And
Wheaton.
Yeah, and it's been around forever. It would have been the country's first female college, but it started as a female seminary.
Ah,
So it didn't
mhm,
get that credit. But you know, Wheaton was a very serious place to learn to be a writer. And so I started writing poetry in my junior year. I won uh, two poetry prizes back to
mhm,
back. And one was sponsored by the University of Missouri Press with backing by Hallmark. Talk about, you know, commercial. And the
mhm.
other one was from the New England Poetry Club, which has been around for over 100 years, was founded by Amy Lowell, and Robert Lowell was her brother, and
Mhm.
everyone and his brother belonged to the New England Poetry
Right.
Club. And it's still going. And so 50 years after I won that prize in college, I won the Amy Lowell Prize in
Right.
2019
How
for,
neat. How
yeah,
neat.
it
Full
really was
circle.
extraordinary. Half a century later,
Hmm.
you know, was just so incredible. And so I'd always had that love, but I didn't put out my first, and it's not going to be my last. Um, Beautiful Corpus.
Yes.
That is, you know, the first poetry book. Kelsey Press did it, and they were wonderful because, you know, I took the photo for the cover. I had so much input into getting
Hmm.
this book out, and it came out at the end of March 2020 when COVID
Ouch. Ouch.
just
Ouch. That's right at
shut
the
down
same
every,
time.
absolutely nailed it perfectly.
Hmm.
So the local bookshops, the, you know, places that I normally would have done readings along the North Shore of Boston
Hmm.
or in Cambridge, where the, you know, New England Poetry Club is, or all of these other places, everything shut down. So,
Ouch.
yes.
And when they
So,
opened up, it's no longer new and
exactly. Yes,
important. Yes.
exactly. You're no longer the new local author on the block.
Right. Right. And it's been, oh, several years since you won the Amy Lowell Prize. Just like,
Absolutely.
ah.
Yes, yes, all these things. So you hesitate to even, this is why when I list them as credits, I list the year that it happened because, you know, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to say in, you know, 2003, I did something because everybody did something in 2003. But unless you won the Nobel Prize, it's not that interesting. So, so I've just sort of kept myself to myself over the years, and when things come up, right after Tom died, I started writing about that entire
Hmm.
experience because as fate continued, the book came out in the March of 2020, and he died in the COVID unit at the local
Oh,
hospital
oh, that's
in
so hard.
the December of
That's so hard.
2021.
Yeah.
So that whole time, I mean, I'm one of millions
Hmm.
who, you know, experienced that. Um, and it's so different from any kind of a normal life and death. And,
Yes.
you know, he was in there for 16 days and I never saw him again. I got to
That's
watch
just,
him die on a computer screen.
yeah.
So those
That's,
change, those things change you
yes.
again. And I thought when I was capable of writing about it again, that's exactly what I was going to write about.
Hmm.
And so, you know, Portrait of the Artist is a young womb I wrote because it entertained me, and and you know, we'll see where that goes. I will
Right.
finish it. I will do something with it because I really like it. But the other thing,
It's clever.
thank you. And no one's used it. Imagine that. And the other thing is Sleeping with a Rock, which is currently in progress, and that's all about life and death with Tom.
Right.
Life and death and life again. Let's
Yes.
put it that way.
Yes. Because things are reborn.
Things
They
are
do
reborn,
renew. Hmm.
and you know, and I am very well aware that the spirit lives on. You know, the flesh
Hmm.
dies, it's meant to, but the spirit, call it whatever you want, is is eternal. It really,
Yes, it is.
God said the only thing that counts is love. You know,
Yes. Hmm.
says it over and over. Every culture, every religion always comes back to that one way or another.
Hmm.
And so that really has been my focus. And I've got that out in a few places right now. And Emily, you know how it is. You keep going until somebody says, "Oh, I like that."
Right.
When I won the Amy Lowell Prize in 2019, it was a poem called "The Dark Night of Charles Olson." And Charles Olson, was a extremely literary and tough poet with huge Harvard connections, and his stuff is very esoteric. And he lived around the corner from me when I
Hmm.
lived in Gloucester, Massachusetts on Cape Ann. We lived in a very tough area called the Fort. And anyway, when Olson died, I just wrote a poem about the things he saw that last walk around Gloucester at like 2 in the morning, which he used to do. And he was six
Right.
eight. He was 6 feet 8. So
Oh my.
yes, you could see him coming a mile
Yes.
away if you were up at
Mhm.
2 in the morning, which I would be. And so it took me 10 years. That poem went everywhere. You name it. For 10 years, I sent it out, sent it out, sent it out. And then the New England Poetry Club was looking for, poems with New England roots. And that was it.
Right.
And I like to tell people, never give up. Never give up on your own work. If you believe in your own work, that's all it counts. Somebody else someday is going to say, that's good.
Yes. People talk about overnight success. Well, it took you 7 years for your overnight success.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So I've been around the block. I invented the block, I think. Um, and I have no complaints. I, when I go to these events, like Martha Collins was the judge of the New England Poetry, and she just put out her billionth book. And, um, that requires traveling. Do you
Yes.
travel? Do you promote your work by traveling? And
No, I do not.
no.
I travel to entertain myself.
Yes, exactly. I
Yeah.
never wanted to do a book tour, or it had no appeal to me. None.
No, being up in front of people makes me extremely nervous. I taught school for 30 years. That was the wrong profession for me. I spent the whole first week in a constant shake.
Well, you survived 30 years. You must have been really good.
I think I was just persistent and stubborn.
Well, those are the two qualities, aren't they? That's what they say. Talent is 1%. Persistence and being stubborn is the other 99%. You
Yes,
just don't give
yes,
up.
that is true. You said something earlier. Let's see if I can bring it back up. That poems are compact. The
Yes.
compactness of the poem allows you to get to the point of the poem very quickly, and it engages both the intellect and the emotion at the same time. And I think that's extremely important. Would you like to talk about how that writing poems with in that way helps you with your fiction?
Yes. I think you, as a writer, or at least for me, I can speak for myself. As a writer, you spend your whole life sorting out what's important, what may seem to be the most minute detail of something. And as you live longer and read more and talk more to people and are just out in the world, you start to see how those little tiny things are universal.
Yes. Yes.
And the big overall thing of love or hate or war, it's it breaks down, it breaks down, it breaks down until you write 14 line sonnet that just
Hmm.
taught, you just write about seeing two birds fight over a worm,
Right.
and it takes on every war that's ever been fought by any human being.
Yes. It
It's the same
expands so much. Yes.
exactly, it's the same impulse, the same impulse. And you can tell that story you could never, at least I can't, I do not have the talent to write a short story about two birds fighting over a worm, but I could write a poem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to me, that's the distillation of, both intellect and because, it's factual, but it's also emotional because when you watch two birds fighting over anything, you have human feelings. So, when you take that and you extrapolate what it means, what you've seen with your own eyes, um, I've never been a war correspondent, but I've seen people fight.
Yes. Yes. And
I've fought
even,
myself.
even down to just two neighbors who despise each other and go out of their way to be vindictive. And
Yes,
you go like, oh yeah, that's what's going on here, you know, about two
absolutely.
countries at war.
Yes. And,
Hmm.
it's funny, Emily, because um, being the kind of person that I am, even when I've written mysteries, they very rarely involve death.
Hmm.
Usually they're quirkier.
Right. Hmm.
But the very first short story I wrote that sold under my own name because when I was a newspaper reporter and then, a feature writer, and then I went on to be a feature editor and but I also wrote True Confessions on the side because they paid 11 cents a word. Now, all these years later, 11 cents a word is huge. Try to get it.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Isn't that
Hmm.
amazing?
It
You
is
could
amazing.
you could just write something off the top of your head and get paid $247. Just,
As
try to
long
get
as it made
some.
logical sense.
Absolutely, yes. Yes. And especially, with the True Confessions and the romances, everybody wants a happy ending, and that's what you learn to do. And then I'd written a short story that bounced around the universe for a while, and the Boston Globe Sunday magazine bought it, and this was in 1983.
Hmm.
And the best thing about it was that it got illustrated by a guy named Anthony Russo, who went on to do New Yorker, those little New Yorker sort of woodblock cuts and strange
Oh,
things.
yes. Yes.
Yeah, Anthony
Hmm.
Russo did it for years, but he illustrated this story, and that's its value. It's not my story. It's the fact that that was early Anthony Russo.
Hmm.
And but the story itself, I think it was the only time I actually killed somebody off. And then after that, I didn't have the heart. So,
It's hard. It's really hard.
yeah.
I had a character. My sister thinks it was her favorite character that I wrote, and I told her she's my favorite character too, and I just cannot have her stumble upon a dead body anymore. It's just not possible. It's cruel.
Yeah,
We
I
have about
understand.
5 minutes remaining. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about, Nancy? It's been a joy talking to you, by the way.
Well, I've had a wonderful time. Thank you. Most people always figure, well, that's enough of her. So,
Oh.
um, because when I look back at what I call a writing career, though,
Hmm.
as they say, I don't know about you. Again, I tend to start out generalizing and realizing it probably only applies to me. But, my family and the people who know me really don't think of me as a writer. You know, when something new comes out, I can hand them something and say, I think it's funny, or I like this, and you never know if they've read it or not. So, you're, if you, like it's classic. I mean, even when I was in high school and I would write something, and my mother was my biggest fan, but she would say to me that she read a page when she vacuumed. She would read one page, and I would say, Ma, how can you follow the story if you just hold the manuscript and you only do it well? She said, I vacuum every day. It's like, Okay.
So in 6 days, I've got a 6-page story read.
So that was my early lesson in who reads you and what they think.
Right.
And it's been probably the best thing that could have happened to me because I didn't expect people to fall all over me.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever somebody stumbled across me, it's always been a huge honor,
Yes. Yes.
never take anything for granted because when you're out there, you know how hard it is.
Yes.
And
And stay humble. Keep your humility.
you'd
Uh,
better. Yeah.
yes. Instead of being prideful and announcing to the world, "Oh, I'm a writer." Well, you're a writer, but you don't have to tell everybody that. You have you have another part of your life that they're paying attention to.
That's right. And there's nothing, worse than somebody saying, "Oh, what might I have read that you've written?"
Oh.
And I think, well, do you happen to get a magazine called America that's put out by Jesuits? And watch people turn white. It's like,
Or you tell them, "I write poetry," and then the first thing out of their mouth is, "I don't get poetry. I don't like it."
exactly. Or I hate poetry. Oh, I
Yeah.
hate poetry.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they ask what you read, and there's this light in their eye, what you write, and there's this light in their eye, and you go like, "I write mystery stories." Oh, you don't write romances? Um, well, he proposed at the end of the story. You know? You're going like, oh
Yeah,
well.
that's exactly what, and I'm sure for very, very, very famous writers who have made millions and had movies made of their work, life is completely different.
Hmm.
But it was never going to be my life,
Yes.
and I knew that. Um, the money would have been great, but the pressure and the glamour and the glitz and being examined like an insect for
And the
what
lack
you're
of
doing.
privacy.
Yes,
And the
exactly.
expectation that everything that you put out will be better than what you wrote before.
Yes,
And if it's not to their taste, they're going to call it bad, even if it's better.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. And when I, was doing feature writing, um, I would interview. I mean, I was young myself. I was in my, early mid-20s, and
Mhm.
I interviewed two separate men who had put out their first novels. One was a mystery novel, um, and he was so proud. He was 43, and it was called The Nixon Recession Caper. So that dates it for you. The
Yes.
Nixon
Hmm.
Recession Caper. And he had planned a whole string of novels now that this one had gotten published. And he died 2 years later.
Oh, oh.
And that was another lesson.
Yes.
It's like, do not plan a string. Because, be glad you got one.
Yes. Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, and Beautiful Corpus is a perfect example of that. I'm
Mhm.
so happy that that got published, and I'm so glad Tom lived long enough to, hold it.
Yes.
And yeah, that was important to me.
Yes.
So I'll let you know if Portrait of the Artist as a Young Womb comes out.
Please let me
How's
know because
that?
it's such a clever title. I'm desperate to read it. I am desperate to read it just on the title alone. So,
Yeah. Well, we'll see what the censors do as time comes on along. Maybe womb will become a forbidden
oh,
word.
I don't think so. Not in America. Not in
Yeah.
America. All right. Thank you so much, Nancy. It was wonderful talking with you.
Well, I've had a wonderful time, and thank you so much, Emily. That is so generous of you to share your airtime with another writer is so thoughtful. It really
Thank you.
is.
Thank you.
And I very
Uh,
much appreciate it.
this whole podcast is more about giving back than it is about taking in. So,
Yes, and that's what's so wonderful about it. And I'm so grateful that you gave me a chance to, you know, say whatever it is I think for what it's worth.
all right. Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye, Emily.
This finishes our interview with Massachusetts resident Nancy Brewka-Clark. We've discovered quite a lot about Nancy, including her dry wit, her optimism mixed with reality, and her understanding that small snippets of everyday life expand to represent the macro scale of the entire globe. For souls are universally the same, you know, just refined or warped by circumstances. Nancy is the perfect example of our motto here at the Right Focus. Remember, whatever occurs, write on. Thanks for listening to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Remy Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.